thing that jumpstarts, not always, but I'd say about 90, 95% of all of my clients have weight to lose. Now, that might be 5 pounds, that might be 85 pounds, but that's what they come to me for. And then, oh, by the way, I feel like crap most of the time because they lay out all the other symptoms. But the weight loss is what, is what gets them to me. So I'll have women that, for instance, have been in amazing shape and health all of their life. I have women that are former bodybuilders. I have women that are former marathoners, CrossFitters. And then by the time they get to me, they're like, okay, Monica, I'm doing Orange Theory X time, X amount of times a week. And I've cut my calories. I'm on, they're 5'8" and they're on this 1,200 calorie, a day, 1,100 calorie a day diet. And they're doing all of the things. Well, when we do their symptom assessment, it's not surprising that I see that they have adrenal dysfunction. And so what happens in adrenal dysfunction is you have an issue with cortisol. And so the worst thing that somebody with adrenal dysfunction can do is do exercise that puts exercise stress on their body. And the kind of long endurance cardio, like running a 10K, or kind of hit, when you do hit like high intensity training or burst training, when you're doing that 45 minutes to an hour a day, 5-6 times a week, that's sending your cortisol into overdrive. And once your cortisol goes into overdrive, your body goes into fat storage mode. It's like you're perpetually in this fight or flight mode. And so it doesn't know when the next thing is going to happen. And so it's like storing up for the winter. It's storing up for the next attack. And so instead of expending fat as energy, you're storing fat as energy. And then there's a cavalcade of other, symptoms that can accompany that. So the first thing that I do when women come in with adrenal dysfunction, I'm like, stop the hit, stop the Orange Theory, stop running. Well, what am I going to do? How am I going to exercise? Walk. Let's try walking. So I'll get them on a program where they're doing restorative exercise until we're able to balance their hormones, and then they can integrate a little bit of their favorite exercise back into their routine. But until they do that, the weight won't move.
Right. That's so interesting. And what I've noticed, Monica, just really in the last couple of years, I'll be 60 in my next birthday. I've been an athlete my whole life. I love it. I love training. I love competing. I love that whole vibe.
Awesome.
When I go to a gym now and spend roughly the same amount of time and sort of similar intensity to what I've been used to over the last 10, 15 years, which is tapered from when I was in my 20s and 30s for sure, but still good. I am not getting the same results. My muscles are not responding the same way. I don't feel that I'm getting the same output for what I'm putting into it. And, is that common? And why does that happen?
Yeah. So, hormones are a tricky wicky thing, and metabolism is also part of the whole hormonal component. And once we start to age, after the age of 40, we lose 1% of muscle mass a year. And that has a direct effect on our metabolism. At the same time, our estrogen is fluctuating, declining and fluctuating. And that can affect a lot of things, not only how our fat is stored, but where our fat is stored. It can also affect how we're able to utilize carbohydrates effectively. And in turn, there's this kind of push-pull going on with doing the same thing that we used to do and expecting the same results. And our needs change, our dietary needs change, and the way that we approach exercise and diet has to strategically change, whether or not we have a hormonal imbalance or not, simply because we are aging and we've reached a certain level where the amount of oxidative stress in our bodies is contributing to the aging process. So we have to look at macronutrients. We have to look at blood sugar stabilization. A lot of my clients have age-related insulin resistance. A lot of my clients, are afraid to resistance train because, they still have the mindset that they'll get bulky, or they're not eating enough calories to actually build lean muscle mass. A lot of my clients are still stuck on the, I want to weigh XYZ on the scale. And while I get that, because that's the era that we grew up on, if the number on the scale was good, you were having a good day, and if it didn't, you weren't. And we know now that, 130 pounds at 30% body fat and 130 pounds at 18% body fat look very differently. And so it's this mindset shift that I'm trying to get women and my clients into later in our program. If we're doing a one-on-one coaching and we really focus solely in on weight loss for a goal, I won't let my clients just pick the scale to measure progress. I will make them pick a piece of clothing. I will make them pick progress photos. I want them to get away from just seeing a certain number on the scale that does not really reflect accurately what's going on in your body. And as we get older, even if we're working out, because of the fluctuation in estrogen and the way that our body metabolizes nutrients, we are all putting on more visceral fat. And it's this visceral belly underlying fat that also surrounds our organs that is the deadliest fat there is. And so a lot of women will come to me and say, I've always had a flat stomach. I've gained weight, I gain weight in my hips and my butt and my thighs. But now, like, what's with this tire? Like, I can't even zip up, my pants. And to top it all off, we now know that body fat is estrogenic. So if you're dealing with estrogen dominance, again, that could be in perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. You can still be have estrogen dominance. The more fat you're storing, the more estrogen you're storing, and therefore the more estrogen dominant you will continue to be. So it's really, really important that we get a hold of our hormones, not just to get a good night's sleep and not just to look great in the mirror, but also to protect our longevity and also our vitality. I'm not interested in living to age 100 if it's going to be a medical experience. I want to live to an age 100 and still be able to enjoy life and still be able to be active. So what we do now in our 40s, 50s, and 60s will have a direct effect on our older years. And that's why I'm so passionate about health, especially even as I get older. And I look to, the so-called retirement years, and I see examples in my own life of people who really took care of themselves and are enjoying their life, and people who didn't really think that what they did mattered, and now are really dealing with the consequences. So there's no better time, and it's never too late to start focusing on your health.
That's a very important message, and I really appreciate that. So the two biggest areas that I hear women talk about that are challenges for them through perimenopause, menopause, and then beyond are weight gain and sleep issues. And you've touched on both of those. So you have this signature program. You've just beta launched a new signature program. So how do you use your shift program to help women address these challenges that they're experiencing?
Yeah, absolutely. I spoke to a little bit earlier. I think we're all kind of under this false assumption that either hormones will balance themselves out if we leave them alone, or B, that it requires hormone replacement therapy in order for our hormones to balance. But there is a third option. And I am proof positive of that. I started my own journey 7 years ago, and through personal experience as well as training classes in integrative health and functional medicine and metabolic conditioning, I've worked with thousands of women, either directly or indirectly, on getting a hold of their hormones. And I've put it into a systemized program called the SHIFT method. And SHIFT stands for kind of the shift that we're all dealing with in our hormones in our life, but it's also an acronym. And so the acronym stands for supplementation, stress management, sleep optimization, hormonal disruptors, inflammation, food, which is diet and nutrition, and training. It's a completely holistic program, so there's no medication involved. And it looks at our life from all aspects and the things that we are doing to either nourish our hormones or to aggravate an existing hormonal imbalance. And so we look at everything from, stress and sleep, are kind of buzzwords, in 2022. And, oh, you need to make sure you get enough sleep and you need to make sure you're managing your stress. But I'm here to tell you, ladies, if you're not managing your stress properly, now notice I didn't say eliminate all stress because we live in the real world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but if you're not managing your stress and if you're not sleeping 7 blissful hours of sleep a night, you will not be able to balance your hormones. You won't. That is when our body repairs and recovers. And that is just as important as what you put in your mouth or just as important what you're doing at the gym. And then we also focus on things like hormonal disruptors. So there are things like xenoestrogens in our cosmetics, in our hair care, in our skincare and cleaning products that actually mimic estrogens in our body. So your favorite, moisturizer could unwittingly be contributing to your issues of falling asleep. I mean, it's crazy the stuff that's in our stuff. And so just becoming more self-aware of things like that. So you've got environmental stress, you've got exercise stress, and you've got nutritional stress. And nutrition, not going to lie, that is the biggest component of all of this. And it's so important that not only are we removing from our diet those things that are known to be disruptors to our digestive system, our detoxification system, whatever hormonal imbalance we have going on, as well as raising blood sugar levels, as well as contributing to toxins like GMOs or cow dairy or farm raised fish. But then we're replacing that, right, with foods that are nourishing, that are fat burning, that contain anti-inflammatories, that contain antioxidants, that help balance your hormones and support your hormones. So it's taking out the bad and putting in the good, and then figuring out chemically what works for you. So any nutrition program, in my humble opinion, needs to be a 100% customized. I don't sell off the shelf programs, even though people will ask me, can you give me a program for my hormones? And I can't, because a couple of reasons, but the primary reason is I don't know who you are chemically until we test how you react to certain foods. And so I don't want to remove anything from your diet that you have no issues with eating. At the same time, I don't want to recommend you eat certain foods that your body is reacting to. And inflammation can show up in a variety of ways. And so we go through a protocol as we reintroduce foods as part of the nutrition part of the program to see what foods you're reacting to, and then deciding if you're going to eat those foods again, how often you're going to eat those foods again. But better to know what foods are doing what to you, so you control what foods you eat and you know what to expect, as opposed to just eating something and not knowing whether it's going to upset your hormones, your stomach, your sleep, your mood.